Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real today, because this is one of those truths that hits deep in the heart. You ever notice how the sweetest, kindest people, the ones who feel everything so deeply, always seem to run into the most selfish, self-centered people first? That's no accident. If you're an empath and you've had your heart broken, let me tell you right now, it's part of your journey. Empaths are some of the kindest, most giving people in the world. Their hearts are open, their energy is warm, and they have this natural ability to make people feel seen and understood. That kindness is not just a personality trait, it's a light that shines for everyone around them. They don't have to try to love, it comes naturally. They don't measure what they give, it's just part of who they are. And that's beautiful. But here's the catch. The very thing that makes empaths so special is also what makes them a target for narcissists. Narcissists are like emotional vampires. They can't generate their own energy, so they rely on others to feed their sense of importance, to validate them, to make them feel whole. They walk into a room and instantly zero in on someone who will give without asking for much in return. And that's where the empath comes in. That warm, giving heart, that natural instinct to care for people, that's like a buffet to a narcissist. They see someone who will give them attention, admiration, love, and emotional energy freely, and they know they've found their meal ticket. Empaths, because they are naturally compassionate and trusting, often don't notice the warning signs at first. They see the charm, the attention, the gestures, and they assume the person is genuine. They think if someone seems to need love, maybe I can help them. Maybe I can make a difference. That hope, that willingness to nurture is exactly what draws narcissists in. Narcissists are experts at spotting people who want to give without limits, people who forgive too easily, and people who will justify bad behavior because they want to see the good in everyone. What ends up happening is the empath pours themselves into the relationship, giving more than they realize, while the narcissist consumes, manipulates, and takes without reciprocation. And the empath often doesn't recognize it until they're emotionally drained, wondering why their heart feels heavy even though they've been loving wholeheartedly. They are left trying to figure out what went wrong, not realizing that nothing went wrong with them. The only problem was the energy mismatch. This dynamic is not a flaw of the empath. It's a sign of their extraordinary capacity to love and care. Their kindness is powerful, but it has to be protected. The encounter with a narcissist, as painful as it can be, is also an essential lesson. It teaches the empath the importance of setting boundaries, recognizing the difference between genuine love and emotional exploitation, and valuing their own energy as much as they value the hearts of others. Empaths attract narcissists first because their kindness is irresistible to people who thrive on taking without giving. But that same kindness, when coupled with awareness and self-respect, becomes the foundation for emotional strength. The empath learns to shine without being drained, to give without losing themselves, and to recognize the difference between someone who deserves their love and someone who only wants to consume it. In this way, what begins as vulnerability transforms into the empath's greatest power. Empaths have a gift that most people don't. They see the good in everyone. They walk into situations and people with hope in their hearts, believing that underneath the rough edges, every person has something beautiful to offer. That's why empaths often overlook red flags. They don't do it because they're naive or weak. They do it because their hearts are wired to trust and to believe in the potential for goodness. They look past the small lies, the manipulations, and the selfish behaviors because they want to believe that people can change, that love can heal, and that intentions can outweigh actions. When a narcissist enters an empath's life, those red flags are usually easy to see from the outside. Friends and family notice the subtle control, the lack of reciprocity, the way the narcissist always puts their needs first. But the empath doesn't see it the same way. They're not focusing on the warning signs, they're focusing on the hope. They're thinking, if I show love, if I understand, if I stay patient, maybe this person will be different. That's how empaths are. They see possibilities, not problems. They see potential, not patterns of behavior that indicate danger. This tendency to ignore red flags isn't a flaw. It's the very thing that makes empaths so compassionate and capable of deep connections. But it does make them vulnerable, especially to narcissists who are experts at playing on hope and using charm as a mask. Narcissists know that empaths are predisposed to see the best in people. They know empaths are forgiving and willing to rationalize bad behavior, so they exploit that. They rely on the empath's desire to believe, to hope, to love, knowing that the empath will give them multiple chances, excuse after excuse, while the narcissist continues to take without giving back. Over time, though, those experiences teach the empath valuable lessons. The repeated clashes between hope and reality sharpen their perception. The heartbreaks and disappointments force the empath to start noticing what they previously overlooked. They begin to understand that just because someone says the right words or acts charmingly, it doesn't mean they're trustworthy. They learn to balance their natural optimism with a healthy dose of skepticism, to recognize patterns and to trust their gut instincts over their hopes. In the end, ignoring red flags initially is part of the empath's growth journey. It exposes them to experiences that help them define their boundaries, recognize their worth, and understand the difference between someone who is genuinely good and someone who only pretends to be. The desire to see the best in people remains a strength, but it is now paired with discernment and clarity. That combination of heart and wisdom transforms empaths into individuals who can love deeply without being blind to the truth, and who can protect their energy while still giving generously to the right people. Narcissists are strategic when it comes to choosing who they target, and empaths tend to be the first ones they notice. It's not random, it's calculated. Empaths are naturally giving, naturally trusting, and naturally forgiving. They see the good in people, they want to help, and they want to fix situations that aren't perfect, That combination makes them vulnerable to people who are skilled at taking without giving. A narcissist sees an empath and they immediately recognize someone who will provide them with attention, admiration, and emotional energy without resistance. When a narcissist steps into the life of an empath, it often starts subtly. They're charming, attentive, and flattering. They know how to appeal to the empath's natural inclination to see the best in others. An empath might notice small inconsistencies or odd behaviors, but dismiss them, thinking, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they just need understanding. That desire to believe in someone else's goodness makes empaths easy targets. Narcissists count on it. They know the empath will forgive early missteps, rationalize small manipulations, and continue investing in the relationship, thinking it's love or compassion or patience that will make the situation work. Empaths are quick to forgive because they are wired to restore harmony. They don't want conflict, they don't want anger, and they don't want to hurt anyone. That's what makes them such good friends, partners, and confidants. But narcissists see that forgiveness as an open door to take advantage. They feed off the empath's generosity and patience. Every time the empath excuses a lie, overlooks a selfish act, or continues to give attention after being mistreated, the narcissist feels more secure in the imbalance of power. They don't have to give, they don't have to change, they just have to keep taking. But here's the thing, the relationship with a narcissist is also a lesson. Each manipulation, each slight betrayal, each exploitative act teaches the empath to recognize patterns and develop boundaries. The very traits that made them an easy target, empathy, trust, forgiveness, become the tools that once sharpened make them nearly impossible to deceive in the future. The empath learns to see beyond charm, to evaluate actions instead of words, and to protect their energy while still maintaining their ability to care. Meeting a narcissist first is not a reflection of weakness, it's part of the empath's growth. The narcissist comes into the empath's life to test their heart, to challenge their trust, and to push them into self-awareness. The experience may sting, it may hurt, but it ultimately strengthens the empath's ability to navigate relationships wisely. They emerge wiser, more discerning, and more capable of loving without losing themselves. In that way, narcissists target empaths first not to destroy them, but to set the stage for the empath's emotional empowerment and lifelong clarity. Empaths don't love halfway. When an empath gives their heart, they give it fully. They don't hold back. They invest time, energy, and attention into people they care about because loving deeply is just who they are. They show up for others. They listen without judgment. They care without reservation. And they give without expecting immediate returns. That depth of love is rare and it's beautiful, but it also makes them targets for narcissists. Narcissists don't operate on the same wavelength. They don't understand empathy. They don't give without expecting something in return, and they are hungry for attention, admiration, and validation. When they meet someone who can provide that endlessly, they see an opportunity. Narcissists crave emotional fuel, and empaths are like a running faucet. The empath pours out love freely, offering support, encouragement, and patience, while the narcissist takes without giving. The empath sees the charm, the gestures, the attention, and interprets it as genuine connection. They think they love me, they care about me. But the narcissist is not in it for love. They are in it for the energy. They are in it for the attention that keeps their ego alive, for the admiration that fills the emptiness inside. And because the empath loves fully, they often stay longer, hoping that love will inspire change, hoping that their patience will cultivate a genuine connection, and hoping that their loyalty will eventually be returned. The danger is that the empath doesn't always notice the imbalance right away. They see the attention and affection as signs of love, even when the narcissist's actions are self-serving. They forgive easily, rationalize missteps, and continue giving. They put themselves last because their instinct is to nurture, to care, to heal. They are wired to see the good, even when it's buried under selfish behavior. That's why narcissists are drawn to empaths first. They know that an empath will provide attention and affection without boundaries, that they will forgive and tolerate, and that they will keep giving long after anyone else would have walked away. But here's the lesson in all of this. Loving deeply does not make an empath weak. The experiences of being loved superficially, used, or taken for granted teach the empath about boundaries, self-respect, and emotional balance. The empathy that once made them vulnerable becomes the very thing that empowers them. They learn how to love fully while protecting their heart, how to give attention wisely, and how to recognize who deserves their love and who does not. Over time, the empath's ability to love deeply is matched by discernment and strength. Empaths love deeply, and narcissists crave that love without reciprocating. The imbalance can be painful, but it is also transformative. It teaches the empath how precious their heart is, how to value their energy, and how to navigate relationships with wisdom. What begins as vulnerability eventually becomes emotional power. That depth of love, once balanced with awareness, turns the empath into someone unstoppable, someone who can give fully, love completely, and never allow themselves to be drained again. When an empath meets a narcissist early in life, it can feel devastating. The heartbreak, the manipulation, the emotional drain, it all hits hard, and at first it seems unfair. But that experience is not just pain, it's a lesson. It's life teaching the empath how to protect their heart, how to value themselves, and how to grow stronger through challenge. Meeting a narcissist early is like being thrown into the fire. It's uncomfortable, it's intense, and it hurts, but it forges strength, clarity, and resilience in a way nothing else can. Empaths are naturally giving and forgiving, and that generosity makes them vulnerable. They trust, they nurture, and they hope the best in people, even when actions say otherwise. A narcissist enters their life, often charming, persuasive, and skillful at disguising their selfishness. The empath, guided by their hope and desire to see the good, invests their time, energy, and love fully. But the narcissist takes without giving back, pushes boundaries, and manipulates without conscience. That's when the first lessons begin. The empath starts recognizing where their boundaries should have been, learning that their energy is valuable, and realizing that self-respect isn't negotiable. The encounters with narcissists teach empaths about boundaries in ways that kindness alone cannot. They learn that saying no is not selfish, that walking away is not a failure, and that protecting their heart is an act of self-love. They realize that they cannot fix everyone, cannot save everyone, and cannot allow anyone to drain them under the guise of needing care. Those boundaries, once understood, become a shield for future relationships, ensuring that empaths give from a place of strength, not depletion. Self-worth is another critical lesson learned. When a narcissist devalues, belittles, or takes advantage, the empath is forced to confront the question, what do I deserve? That pain becomes a mirror reflecting the value of the empath's heart and showing them that love should never feel like sacrifice at the cost of their well-being. They discover that their feelings, their energy, and their time are precious, and that they are entitled to relationships where reciprocity, respect, and care are present. And then comes strength, the kind of strength that cannot be taught in a classroom or read in a book. The kind that is born from experience, from heartbreak, and from learning to rise after being hurt. The empath who meets a narcissist early develops emotional resilience, mental toughness, and a keen intuition that allows them to recognize manipulation before it can take root. They grow stronger because they've survived the challenge and have emerged wiser, more discerning, and more confident in their value. Meeting a narcissist early is not punishment, it's preparation. It teaches empaths boundaries, self-worth, and strength. It transforms vulnerability into empowerment, pain into clarity, and hope into wisdom. The empath who has faced a narcissist becomes unstoppable, capable of loving fully while protecting themselves, and able to recognize the people and relationships that truly deserve their heart. Pain is something empaths feel more deeply than most people. When their trust is broken, when their love is taken for granted, when a narcissist enters their life and drains their energy, it hurts like nothing else. That kind of pain can feel heavy, overwhelming, and unfair, but it is also the beginning of transformation. The experiences that wound an empath most profoundly are the same ones that lay the foundation for their emotional power and clarity. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every manipulation teaches lessons that no amount of advice or theory could ever give. Empaths feel everything fully. They experience joy, love, and connection with intensity, but they also experience sorrow and disappointment in ways that leave a lasting imprint. When a narcissist exploits the depth, it exposes the empath to the imbalance of emotional energy, showing them what it feels like to give without receiving. At first, this pain may feel unbearable, but over time it sharpens the empath's perception. They start to recognize patterns, to see warning signs, and to understand the difference between someone who genuinely values them and someone who is simply taking advantage of their generosity. The pain of meeting narcissists first becomes a teacher. It teaches empaths to protect their hearts without shutting them down. It teaches them to give love in a way that is sustainable, to invest in relationships that are reciprocal, and to walk away from those that are harmful. Each hurtful encounter, each moment of disappointment acts like a layer of wisdom being added, preparing the empath for stronger, healthier connections in the future. They learn to trust their instincts over their hope, to evaluate actions over words, and to value themselves enough to refuse anyone who does not respect their heart. Clarity comes from the lessons embedded in pain. Once an empath has endured manipulation, selfishness, and deceit, they develop an emotional intelligence that is rare and powerful. They can read intentions behind words, understand motives behind actions, and discern genuine love from fake affection. Their heartbreak becomes a guide, allowing them to navigate life and relationships with insight and precision. The experiences that once caused anguish now as tools for understanding human behavior and protecting themselves in ways they could not before. Ultimately, the empath's pain is the foundation for their strength. It transforms vulnerability into resilience, suffering into awareness, and heartbreak into wisdom. The empath learns to love fully, but wisely. They maintain their compassion, but they no longer allow it to be exploited. Their capacity for empathy, once seen as a weakness by narcissists, becomes their greatest power. It allows them to build meaningful connections, recognize true love, and navigate life with confidence, discernment, and emotional clarity. The pain the empath experiences early in life is not wasted. It is the crucible that shapes their heart, mind, and spirit, preparing them for a future where they can love deeply without being drained, trust wisely without being deceived, and stand strong without fear of being broken. The empath who has faced such trials becomes unstoppable, carrying the lessons of their pain as armor and using their clarity as a compass to guide every step they take.